I do know that a lot of people are getting their perspective from TikTok.
John Fetterman, the Democratic senator of Pennsylvania and a full-time ogre, was on CNN where he discussed why he thinks the kids these days are so out of touch with Israel. So I'm gonna get to his clip, and then you know what? I'm gonna entertain the idea that he puts forth. First here, in case you're not familiar with how wacky Fetterman has been recently, yes, he ran a good campaign pretending he was fighting for, real people and human rights and workers' rights, and now he's draping himself in the Israeli flag as there is ongoing indiscriminate bombing of civilians in Gaza, reaching around now almost 20,000 civilians in Gaza, half of them children. But what do I know? It's Fetterman. He's got a point. Let's listen to where Fetterman puts the blame.
72% of young voters, according to this new poll, disapprove of how President Biden is handling the Israel-Hamas war. You've been very vocal in your full support for Israel. I see the Israeli flag behind you in your office there. You've been very clearly arguing that Hamas bears responsibility for the tragedy of what's going on in Gaza. Why do you think so many younger people, especially in your party, see it differently?
I really don't know. I do know that a lot of people are getting their perspective from TikTok. And I think if you're kind of getting your perspective on the world on TikTok, it's going to tend to be kind of warped or not reflective of the history and actually the way things absolutely are.
Of course, TikTok. You know what? Maybe he's right. Famous TikTok influencer, the New York Times here, writing, Gaza civilians under Israeli barrage are being killed at a historic pace, showcasing that women and children make up a large portion of the civilians being killed, and these numbers are as of November 25th or 30th. But another big TikToker has an update. CNN World, massive TikTok influencer CNN World, with the death toll from both Israeli and Palestinians. And you see 2023 here, massive number. They are now estimating at least 19,600 Palestinians in Gaza have been killed. So more propaganda being spread by the TikTok influencer CNN World. Half of those are children. The TikTok influencer United Nations here with their report. UN experts call on international community to prevent genocide against the Palestinian people. This is from back in mid-November. Grave violations committed by Israel against Palestinians in the aftermath of October 7th, particularly in Gaza, point to a genocide in the making. TikTok influencer, the UN there. Here's a massive TikTok influencer, Israel-based human rights organization, B'Tselem. Israel is not fighting against Hamas, but against civilians, implementing a criminal policy of bombings. And this is a TikToker that's in Israel. So this big TikTok influencer, the human rights organization, they got their finger on the pulse of the propaganda, as you can see. And massive TikTok influencer here, Chris Hayes of MSNBC. So here his report.
If you spend any time at all reading the Israeli press, listening to what Israeli leaders and commentators are actually saying, it is very clear that for a lot of people in government, the mass destruction of Gaza, raising it like Putin raised Grozny or Assad raised Aleppo, is the point, the goal. Many prominent members of the Israeli governing class don't think there is such a thing as an innocent civilian in Gaza, have said that everyone in Gaza deserves their fate. From Knesset member Meirav Ben-Ari saying that, quote, the children of Gaza have brought this upon themselves, to an Israeli military spokesman saying the emphasis of Israel's military campaign was, quote, on damage and not on accuracy, to Israel's president, Isaac Herzog, suggesting there are no civilians in Gaza and everyone is a legitimate target, to journalist Shimon Riklin, who said this on Israeli TV.
חס וחלילה, פשע מלחמה זה אני, אתה רגל על הגב. פשע מלחמה זה אני מודה, אני אגיד את זה פה, לא אכפת לי שירדו עליי, אוספים פה חומרים. אני לא נרדם טוב בלי שאני רואה בתים קורסים בעזה. מה אני אעשה? עוד בתים, עוד מגדלים, שלא יהיה להם לאן לחזור.
That's not a fringe view in Israel. I mean, even the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, invoked the lessons from the biblical story of Amalek and addressed the nation in Hebrew in the end of October. And in that biblical chapter, God commands King Saul on how to respond to an attack by the rival kingdom of Amalek. Quote, now go attack the Amalekites and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put them to death, men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys.
No, but it's TikTok. TikTok. That's why people are outraged. When I first saw that Fetterman clip, I thought of The Simpsons because my brain's broken. Old man yells at cloud, of course, famous meme. And of course, this one. Principal Skinner here. Am I out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong. Fetterman, what a complete embarrassment. He is essentially, let me show this clip as well. I covered this recently because it was at the last debate. He is essentially parroting Nikki Haley talking points.
For every 30 minutes that someone watches TikTok, every day, they become 17% more anti-Semitic, more pro-Hamas based on doing that.
Everyone else that watched that clip thought, what a loon. Fetterman saw that and thought, she's got a point. What is there to say about John Fetterman, man? It's one thing to be paid by far right-wing groups to shut up and not comment, which already would be indefensible when you're in a position of power like a senator. But to just completely be a tool of the far right-wing Israeli government through all of this indiscriminate bombing, pretend like they're doing nothing wrong. He's been, as far as I have seen, he has been the worst Democratic senator on this issue, which is saying a lot considering how many conservative Democratic senators there are. He's been the worst. And it was just, a handful of months ago, he was running as a progressive. Man, what a complete clown.